So here I'm going to show you guys that I'm not the only one. This is just down the street from my house. And we're going to cover the telephone poles leading back to my house. So I came today because the lighting was good on my way by, and this is what I directed those missionaries to come look at on 200 North and 200 East, along with the telephone poles that we're about to look at. And there's people in the car right there where I pulled in that are looking at me wondering what the hell I'm doing. And they might come over and look at this too. So someone put this out here because they can see it. And you can see how the whole inside here is hollowed out. Look back up in there for you. And so I'm also going to be doing a tutorial for the newly minted plasma fire affected from the Mandela Effect community, because they're not newly minted truthers, they're newly minted plasma fire affected. They're Mandela affected truthers, which are like the most hardcore type. What I'm showing you here is the difference between the burn and unburn line. Burn is out on the inside. And the tutorial part will include links in the description of this one and others that I'll explain. By Skywatch media that shows a fluctuation in the magnetic field creates a surge of ground current, electricity. And so now this is on 200 East and 200 North, just down the road from my house. And we're gonna drive up the road and show you some of the telephone poles, because there's new updates from the same guy that sent us the video. Notice how fine the line is between burn and unburn. From the same guy that sent us the video showing they're putting lag bolts in the telephone poles and the light posts to go along with the plasma pole graveyard video that I just put up. We're going to show you some of the telephone poles going up the road here. So there's the newly minted truthers. There's the piece in the background in the mirror. And we're on 200 North and 200 East. And that's the piece we just looked at. Now this telephone pole bears some of the signatures, but I'm going to show you some better signatures, and they all have a burn stripe going up the sun-facing side. The sun is there. That is directly south. That's east. And that's west. They're all burnt on the south side. And see, it's burnt on this side. We're going to go both ways up and down the street and show you that they're all burnt on the south-facing side, and or they have the burn on the bottom or white on the bottom. We'll get it coming back. And this one has both, the white on the bottom and the burn on the south-facing side only. And the sun just went behind a cloud, so I might have to, oh, it's coming back out. There we go, we're getting some sun. So notice how it's only burned on this side, and then going back the other direction, it's only burned on the south-facing side. This one you'll notice the same thing. Only burnt. We're gonna back it up. That was a good angle. I think I forgot to push record. So this one you'll notice it's only burnt on the south-facing side. That lady just come out of her house with her son looking at me all weird. I had to tell her I was looking at the telephone pole. It's only burned on the south side. She said, oh, well, I didn't know that was a problem. I said, oh yeah, it's like a sunburn or something. They all got a sunburn. And those people on the porch don't like me filming their house either. It's part of the suppression. I tell you, they will attack you if they see you looking at what they're actively trying to not see. That one's not got a very good example. This one does. And Grandma's on the other side of the road. But I gotta do this. See how it's burnt on the south facing side only. As well as this one. And there went our sunlight. So I'm gonna take you, this is the road that I travel every day, and you still have my dad saying, Antifa and BLM are starting the fires. It's like, and he's seen these telephone poles, and the way they have a burn stripe just going up the south facing side. Sunburn! I've pointed it out to a couple people. People don't like it when you point it out. I am driving on the wrong side of the road, and they would use that as their reason when truthfully they just don't want me pointing out what they know they have to ignore in order to go about business as usual. Burn stripe. Only on the south facing side, and it's truly just a stripe. And it works best if you go past it like this. That's why people might be honking, because I'm driving the wrong way on the road. But a guy sent me some more videos. See how this one's white on the bottom? I think it's because it's white on the bottom, and it's got the example of the burn stripe just going up the front, the south-facing side. I think the white is because it cooks all the weather-resistant oil stuff out of the bottom. Plus, it's got this extra stripe running right here, even with those two metal posts. It's the pole. They've all got a burn stripe going up the south facing side, like they got a sunburn. Oh. I live right up here on 4th North 9th East. Oh. I drive this road all the time, but they all got it, even the ones up on my house.
Well, what it is it's the heat in the summer, and the temperature draws the treatment.
Right, out of the bottom. It looks like it heats it all up and makes it run to the bottom and then kind of cooks it out of it or something.
Yeah, it's creosote.
They all got the burn on the lower 3/4 too. I've seen some where they've had to come re-brace it up. I've taken videos. Right, they burn out right there. It burns a pit out of them.
What it does is the reason that turns that color.
Yeah.
Because that creosote turns to the top.
Right, and I think on some of them they use a different brand. Right, the same stuff. And I think it runs to the bottom, and on some of them it turns white, and on others it turns black, like a different brand they use or something. That's all I was checking out.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's always on the south side, like the sun rises and sets in the south.
Well, that's where the heat.
Right. Yeah.
But I know that I've worked power lines before, and that's an issue. What it does is it pulls it to, so they'll actually start to rot on.
Speaking of power lines, my last load I picked up, there was a whole, I made a video titled Power Pole Graveyard. Because there was a bunch of them stacked up right there with these burns on them where it looks more like electricity. And my YouTube is Jeff Snyder with the number 2 at the end of it on YouTube. And I document all this kind of stuff. I've documented it in like 8 different states, and the electricity comes up from the ground and burns the trees out from the inside. It's phenomenal. It's like signs of the times kind of stuff. Jeff Snyder, number 2, with the number 2 on the end. SNYDER. And
you know, every time they get wet, no matter what, during storms,
yeah.
the electrical, you lose the electric power will run, and it runs down the pole, and it causes it to...
Right, I noticed this one's got, you see the extra...
inside the pole?
You see the little extra brown stripe it's got right there on the bottom? That runs right parallel with the metal pole next to it? It's like some sort of grounding's going on there, and the electricity that comes up through it grounds with the sun and maybe a little bit with that metal pole right there, and that's why the extra brown stripe that's parallel with the thing.
You can buy yourself a digital meter.
Yeah.
You can stab the prong over here, and you can actually read the power. And when it's raining, you can read the power, and you can in millivolts.
Uh-huh. I think they're preventatively putting braces on these, because I have video of one in Tremonton, Utah, where you can see a big old pit's burned right out of it, and they put a metal brace on there to keep it from falling.
Well, it'll arc over.
Right, there's been some sort of burning there, and I think they're preventatively. They take prods, like you were saying, and find the ones that are maybe in danger of burning and put braces on them, and they're drilling lag bolts. A recent video someone else sent me is lag bolts they're putting in right about 2 or 3 foot up. Lag bolts in there to maybe give the energy a place to release.
I'll tell you a place you can go look at power pole. We just finished building a new power plant in the Mount Promethean Homestead. The old original Homestead plant that was built there in 1904.
Okay. In the mouth of Provo Canyon, right, up there on the left. I've seen it.
Yeah, well, the old one is right. You turn in the mouth of the canyon and south to the side. You can't get in there because it's owned by Central Utah Water Association. But we built a new one right above the old one.
Okay.
And that was the first place in the world, supposedly, that they put together 3-phase electrical power. Westinghouse came out and they built the transformers and they put it on a power line, and they ran the power line from there over to Mercury, Utah, into the mine. First over 3-phase power transmitted overland. You can look it up, Homestead, OLM-TED. Look that up. They got that, they got a new, look up in, when you look it up, it shows the new plant and everything that we put together. And that, but if you go up above there, you can get in there if you go up 800 north and go on 800 east and go north on 800 east, and there's a graveyard there.
Yeah, I worked there.
Just as you get
the old cemetery, memorial, something memorial.
Whatever, anyway, you turn right there and go up on the hill.
And
you can go up and you go through the gate. I don't know if the gate's open yet, but they open the gate during hunting season. But those power lines that run out of there, they've been in there since. The poles that I had, some of the poles that they had us take down, I had some, I saved these when we tear things down, these gate tags. Well, the old punch ones, I had a couple of 1938 poles, and they were...
That's old. Yeah, these ain't gonna last that long. Hey, I gotta finish my video, but right down here on 200 North and 200 East, there's a guy that's put out a big log, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. It's burning the inside, and the electricity courses its way through the inside. 200 North, 200 East. Someone else has seen it and put that out there for display.
What it comes down to the bottom line, they call it electrolysis.
Okay. Right, and it uses the smoke as a medium during that electrolysis to rust the cars. The cars rust instantly in these weird fires. Yeah, I talked to a guy online. He's a metallurgist from the Northeast. He knows a lot more about it than me, but he says it's electrolysis.
Electrolysis is huge, just because of anything metal that you put in the ground, there's current in it all the time.
Right.
I don't know, it's like the magnetic fields.
Right.
And the deterioration that's in it, that's why in most of your pipelines you can see now, they weld wires joint to joint. That's so that they can bring it out, and then they bring it in and they have big anode fields that they bury away from the pipe, and then you ground the pipe out away from that, and it stops a lot of that electrolysis.
It stops the electrolysis. That's the other thing I've discovered. The magnetic field, fluctuations in the magnetic field lead to surge in ground current. There's someone else that knows more about that than me that I've gleaned some of their information.
Well, there's a lot of it I don't understand, but it's interesting to talk to.
I think it's part of the magnetic field weakening and fluctuating creates these ground current surges, and they're kind of playing with that a little bit artificially. So yeah, check out you sound like you know enough about the electricity that you'll be able to go down there and look at that tree stump the guy put on 200 north, 200 east, and you'll scratch your head, man. Have a good one, brother. And so, we will go down here and look at one more of these poles, and then cruise clear up to my house. And the strip goes all the way up the pole, but I'm just keeping the camera low for the lighting purposes, because I get glare and the lighting disappears if I try and show you all the way up the pole. So we're just gonna show you this part. That old man knew enough about electricity that he was playing coy until he knew that I'm hip enough to what's going on. He could talk to me about it. And we'll pull over here for this one and just zoom in. There's a birthday party going on. We'll leave them alone. We got enough footage. We don't want to bother anyone else. You see? And that's from State Street clear up to 9th East. That was 200 north and 200 east, up to 200 north. Yeah, that old man. Oh, by the way, the bottom of that one, notice how it's white? It'll be just like this one up here. And then notice the burning is still on the south facing side. It's now directly behind us. This pole, the next pole I think has it even better. There's one up the road that has it even better. But it's now no longer on the street facing side. It's no longer on this side. It's on this side. Directly facing the sun, which rises and sets in the southeast. And my neighbors know, oh, I'm the neighborhood nut job, and I notice how white this one is on the bottom. That old man knew plenty. And look how burnt this one is. Not on the street facing side, on the south facing side. We'll look more at that one. And this one up here on the corner. So notice on this one, here's the street facing side. A little bit of the white on the bottom. As it starts to get golden brown on this side, that golden brown streak runs clear up the pole. And that's not a shadow you're seeing there in the middle, that's the brown streak. That might be a shadow, I might be lying, but generally you can see it's brown on this side. Will this be better? That's what the totally uncooked wood is on the very opposite side. That old man started talking about these rivets, that he's got some from 1939. That's when I was like, okay, we'll talk to you later, old man. You were playing dumb anyway. He's like, oh no. You can see the difference as I circle around. Between the unburnt wood. It's like a hot dog. That's what I mean. It's ambient electricity that's constantly ongoing, and over time it cooks your hot dog to a nice golden brown. And what I was saying about it grounding to the sun, that's directly south. The sun rises in the southeast, goes over and sets in the southwest, but it's always on the south side, so it's coming up through the ground and always grounding out in the south direction. So those poles we just looked at are on that road. The first stop sign, take a right on 200 north, and all those poles that we just looked at were on this side, and the burnt strip was on that side, always facing towards the sun. Like this one, and the one that we're gonna go look at up on the hill, both also have the burnt strip on the sun-facing side. That's nice and golden brown. That's uncooked completely. And all the way up and down the pole on this side, it's uncooked completely. This might be a better view. Then you get around to the cooked side, and it's nice and golden brown all the way up and down the pole. If I could get out of the way. There we go. See, that is not a shadow. That is actually the burned strip, I believe. It's tough to say. Anyway, let's go check out this other pole. So this one has the brown at the bottom, and it's white all the way up the top. Over the last year, there was a stripe on the south-facing side on this, which has since disappeared. And like that old man, we were showing you the white ones at the bottom before. I've told you some go white and some go this brown. And on the neighbor's house, this neighbor right here, in his backyard, there was a straight line burn. I'll include the links in the description. And the burn was going that direction. And on this piece of finger molding that covers that ground wire right there, it was burnt perfectly in half. Straight up and down. I wish I would have grabbed it. But that's also where I picked up a square post right next to it that has two perfect straight line burns. It's burnt on two sides that were facing that direction, opposite the sun. So it may be due to the time of day or where something else is that draws it up from the ground and in a different direction. Because it looks like the sunburst came from this direction in a shadow line. Right now the sun is that direction. Can't even see. It's over there somewhere, I swear. Why can't I find the frickin' sun? There we go. So right now it's casting light onto the pole and making a shadow line right about there because the sun is coming from that direction. On the burn line on the telephone pole at my neighbor's house right over there, looks like the light burst came from this direction and left a shadow line burn going straight down the pole. But I think what it is the electricity's coming up and going out in whichever direction it grounds. That's why some of the tree limbs, you'll see they all burn on the same side, whether that's straight down, the electricity comes up and out and goes down, or to the side or up. Some of them, they'll all be burnt on the top. And there'll be a concave rut burned out, hollowed out the branch, and it all burned on the top. All the branches have it burned on the top. Sometimes it'll be on one of the sides. Sometimes it'll be directly on the bottom. I'll include a link in the description that describes that from one that I recorded on Main Street, right down here. But my neighbor's house, I said it was plasma fire when it happened. As it happened, I was making a video and showed you the police as they arrived and said that I think he might have gotten hit with a plasma fire because he wasn't keeping his house together and his house wasn't in order and he was kind of like becoming a pack rat. But he made out really good on the insurance is what I hear, so he's not too, in the end, he made out pretty good. Look at the video links in the description called Which Way Will You Run, when it's always all around you. because I've now had my neighbor's house light on fire. Twice it struck at the same spot down on Main Street. Links will be in the description. Plasma fire strikes the same place twice, you know, like a reference to the lightning. One on this hill above me, where it burned down to this foothill, and I had to scream and wake my parents up because they wanted to sleep and act like it wasn't happening. And we about got in a fight when I said, "Are you gonna grab a hose or not?" And my stepdad started raising his voice to me, and I said, "I ain't gonna let you sleep through the static" by Jack Johnson. That link will definitely be in the description. Carrying on, the very first plasma fire I ever filmed was from right here in Spanish Fork Canyon. As it ignited, from right here is where I stood and filmed my first plasma fire. There were two pillars of smoke, one light, one dark, and they both simultaneously appeared. And I knew that because the top of the plume of smoke was only to right here on one and to right here on the other. Eventually they made their way out into the sky. But I knew I had just captured them instantly after they both started simultaneously because their smoke plumes had only gotten a little ways. That was where I went and saw my first plasma fire. And when the serpent crossed the threshold of my path, I think I was filming this, and I grabbed the snakeskin off of him as he was dragging it. He was about to duck under a rock, and I grabbed the snakeskin right off of him. After I crossed through this threshold on the other side, on the hill, that was where I saw the sign laid over that said underground fiber optic cable buried here, with that much of it being ash and still hard material on both sides. And then I started to see the branches all over the ground that were only burnt on the butt of the branch, a little circle on the butt of the branch where they had broken away from the tree. And when I filmed the other day, I showed you a film of me filming that snakeskin and that dragonfly. And I said, now that you've seen the metaphysical nature of this reality, that's what I was talking about. The fact that an actual snake crossed my path, shed the scales off of its eyes, and all these other metaphysical metaphors. And that was when I actually shed the scales from my eyes and began to see the plasma fires. And now it's like we live in two different worlds. Those that don't see what's going on, they see something else happening. They see wildfires when we see something else. And in that way, we're living two different realities. When they see something and I see something else, we'll talk more about that later. This is the post that came from my neighbor's house. See how perfect that straight line is? On the right hand side of the post where it goes from burn to unburn. When I get right even at a 90 degrees, it disappears all the way up and all the way down. Burnt on this side. And burnt on this side. Perfect straight line between the two. That alone should be enough to wake people, but this is a separation of consciousness on the consciousness farm. And that old man knew a lot more than he was telling. So now you've seen the perfect burn line here on this side. The orange is what the firefighters sprayed, and they said it was because someone flicked a cigarette butt. That's why my neighbor's house burned. This kind of fire cannot be produced by someone flicking a cigarette butt. So it's perfectly burned on two sides. Perfectly unburned on the other two sides. On this one, it slightly overlaps the manufacturer's corner. The manufacturer's corner would be right here. It overlaps, the burn line overlaps by a finger width. And my speculation on that, and it does it all the way down, if I could get it to stand. There we go. There you can see how far it overlaps. Approximately a finger width. And my speculation on that is that the burst of light, when you think of it as coming from the outside, it would hit both sides. If it came from anywhere from here, it only hit one side, but not that side, if it came from this direction. Right here, it would hit both sides. Clear around to here, it would still hit both sides, and then here it would only hit one side. The fact that it overlapped on this side, a finger width, but it didn't overlap any on this side, if it came from directly at this corner, it would have evenly burned both sides. It came from this angle, where it still burnt both sides, but more so towards that side than that side. And that's why this side has an overlap of a finger width, and this side has a perfect straight line burn right on the line of the manufacturer's, of where the manufacturer created the angle of the edge of the board. But the other side overlaps a finger width. Because the light source, if you were to think of it as coming from the outside instead of coming from right at this corner, it came from here. So it cooked both sides, but more on that side. But then you think of it coming up, and instead of grounding out towards something in this direction, it was just slightly this side of right on the corner. I better add a little more so this one's not 33 minutes also. The link will be in the description where you can see a perfect straight line burn on a round pole to illustrate this shadow line understanding I have about how this burn happened. The round pole standing right next to it has straight line burns, and you can apply this shadow line understanding. You see the line that I'm making perfectly disappear right on the angle, right? I don't know, because there's so much glare in the lens right now that I'm hoping you see what I'm saying. Wow, that's way too